We tell ourselves that we will not be able to change because now we are old. Do you guys also think about the same? Yes or no?
Yes.
Whenever there is anything which needs to be changed, maybe when we are not exercising enough, we don't go to a gym, we would say, क्या करना है? अभी मैं change नहीं हो सकता. Or maybe is there any relationship which needs a change or is draining you, but you will never be able to cut them off because you say that I cannot change my nature. And we talk about this like it is a biological fact. You know, it is not a biological fact. And when we keep on talking about the same thing, that I can't change because I am aged now, or I've grown up, I'm not young, our brain just adapts it. Our brain doesn't understand that it needs to argue. It just accepts that yes, we are not supposed to change. But have you ever thought that if our brain wasn't supposed to change, why did we not transform in our childhood? We never transformed when we were 10 years old, we were 15 years old, and hence I want to challenge you with this question. Why couldn't you have anything which was transformational in your younger ages? The reason is because the young age brain never understands कि क्या चल रहा है. We only understand and challenge things when we are grown up. And today we are going to talk about the same thing, neuroplasticity, which Rutvi Vaja said that it is the ability to adapt things. We will go more deeper and more basic about how it happens and why it happens. Now, before going deeper, you would be thinking that why would I care so much about this topic, right? So let me introduce myself first. My name is Dr. Shachi and I'm a psychotherapist and a clinical neuropsychologist. I'm Britain trained. And my work completely was based on brain scans and to understand that how brain changes during different mechanisms in life. I own a clinic in Vasna Road and I work with patients of depression, anxiety, OCD and everything else which comes under the domain of mental health. Neuroplasticity and mental health is very much related. When we see patients who are not doing well, when we ourselves are not doing well, the first thing which we do is, यार मेरे से नहीं हो पाएगा. I get patients who say that they have anxiety, they have depression, and I would just give them a task of walking, and they would say, I will not be able to do it. And most of them are either Gen Zs or are younger. What this implies is that Gen Z and younger people do not have those kind of experiences which elder people have. Unless the brain doesn't experience a death scare, a health scare, a scare where you ask yourself, am I supposed to change? Nothing is going to change in life. Let's understand this with an example. In my clinical practice, I saw a young lady, 35-year-old. She came to me and when she came, everything looked fine. She was type A personality, navigating everything. She was doing well in her career as well. सब बढ़िया था. And when she came to me, she just said that I have just come to transform. There is nothing wrong with my life. And I was wondering that how will I be able to help her? When I interrogated, when I took her history, her mindset looked okay, but her body did not look fine. She wasn't able to sleep well. She lost her confidence at places where there was confidence before. And she also told me that she has a lot of palpitations and breathlessness when she goes for a meeting. That was my cue. I just asked her what changed. And you know what she says? She says, my coping strategies and my coping mechanism changed. And that is what made me realize that if she can realize कि अगर मेरी coping strategies काम नहीं कर रही है, that means the brain is asking to change. Why can't we change them? And it also made me realize one thing. Like I said, unless there is a voice from inside, unless there is that kind of motivation or ambition where your brain tells you that no, if you don't change, things will not work out, there will be no change in our brain cells. We will always be doing the same thing. Another example I'll tell you. When we talk about neuroplasticity, where did the research came from? The research started in 2000 in the UK. There was a researcher called as Eleanor Maguire. She started the research by studying UK taxi drivers. So in the UK, if you want to become a taxi driver, you have to complete a whole course of 4 years, which is called the knowledge. And it consists of learning 25,000 road maps. So what she did was very interesting. She picked some of the drivers and did their brain scans, and also did some people's brain scans who were not drivers. And you know what they saw? They saw that hippocampus, which is used for navigation and memory, was developed more in the drivers as compared to the non-drivers. You know why this happened? Because those drivers learned it aggressively, and it also costed their livelihood and their survival. समझ रहे हो आप मैं क्या बोल रही हूँ? Unless there is no pinpoint from inside, no health scare, no survival tactics, nothing is going to change. When we compared it to the non-driver people, their hippocampus did not develop, and they were asked why. They just said one thing: we are not drivers. हमको क्या पड़ी है? हमें कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता. We are doing some other work. So this was another proof in 2000, late 26 years back, which is a landmark study in understanding that neuroplasticity only and only happens when there is a trigger in life. So the question is, we keep on telling ourselves we will not be able to do it. And the proof is that we will always be able to do it when we are triggered. And that triggered could be anything. You know, you see people who have lost their parents and there is a drastic change in them. We see people who have lost their fathers at younger age, and the kids must be, you know, very mischievous, naughty, good to go, chirpy, and then there is a change. They become very responsible, or maybe they also go into sadness and anxiety. This is because they were triggered. Something triggered in them which demanded for change. So that was the proof I also realized in myself. Now, the question comes that what actually is needed to help this change, and why does it happen? I thought about it a lot, read a lot of literature that what could be the most common my audience understands कि भाई ये तो होगा तो ही change आएगा. First is emotions. Emotions could be bad, good, happy, sad, anything. But whenever there are emotions generated, our brain releases two chemicals, dopamine and noradrenaline. These two chemicals help us in understanding that something is wrong or something is right. And that is when it hits. Our brain makes that space. You know, it disrupts our normal rhythm where we are not going for a walk, we are not doing certain things, and then there was a rush of hormone which made us realize that no, this is not right, this is not right for my survival as well. And that is when there is a change in the brain. Next comes stress. Whenever we are stressed, our parents, our teachers always tell us, stress mat lo, it's not nice for health, it's not good for health. And I used to think that if there is no stress, none of us will be able to perform, right? आप सबको stress तो होगा ना? पढ़ाई का stress, grades का stress, you know, GPA, CGPA का stress, right? So there are two types of stress, bad stress and good stress. Good stress is also called as eustress. So whenever this kind of stress affects us, our old patterns break. And the brain muscle literally makes space for good things by becoming more flexible. In our everyday base, we are not that greatly flexible. We'll be like, हाँ ठीक है, देखा जाएगा, कर लेंगे. But then when this happens, there are days we are forced to do things. That is the exact thing I'm talking about, neuroplasticity. And it only develops when discomfort kicks in. Neuroplasticity will never develop when you are comfortable or when you are sleeping, when you are chilling. No, it only develops when you challenge yourself. When you ask yourself, am I worthy of living the life I'm living? And when the answer comes no, that is when the motivation kicks in. So today's talk is about breaking that myth and that cultural idea which we talk about कि हमसे नहीं हो पाएगा. is about the parents as well, the older generation as well, you know. They usually tell us कि हमारी तो भी एज हो गई है, हम चेंज नहीं हो सकते. No, मरते दम तक हम चेंज हो सकते हैं. But in adult life, the only question comes is with relevance. And relevance is subjective to people. What is relevant to me might not be relevant to you guys. So you have to find your relevance in life. And once you find it, you will be able to change. Anybody, even 60, 65 वाले जो लोग हैं, उनके लिए भी ये matter करता है. If it is relevant, they are going to change. In adulthood, there is only one difference. We calculate everything as per our time and relevance and our comfort. So next time when we feel that we are not changing, we have to ask ourselves that why are we not changing? Like I said, the brain always asks one question, is this worth changing for? And if the answer comes yes, everything is possible. Like I said, I was able to reduce 10 kgs. I never even thought I'll reduce. Because past 10 years I couldn't reduce. But then there was a health scare and it came on my survival. And that is when things happen. So if any one of you today is thinking that, you know, your life is not on track, you're not feeling well, or maybe things are not going as per you, don't think of it as failure. Think of it as a question to be asked that what is it I'm doing wrong and what is it which I need to do right to change the circumstances. And when the circumstances change, your brain changes as well. Like they have said, your brain changes fastest when life forces it to, not in the comfort of relevance. Again, forces it to. Force कब होता है? या तो बहुत बुरे circumstances आ गए तब, या तो हमारे पास कोई मजबूरी है तब. Otherwise happy है तो force होता ही नहीं है ना. So the reality is also that कि unless we don't go through it, the worst circumstances of our life, we will never be able to change. If you go home today and think about your transformations as well, I am very sure that there might be something which occurred so bad to you or which was so painful to you that you changed, and that change kicked in. You never subconsciously understood it, but it would be there. My journey also changed after something happened in my life which was very painful to me, and amidst everything I just asked myself one thing: am I supposed to live like this or is it time to change? One more thing happened which I'll give you as a proof. When I started my practice, I did not have much patience. I used to wait in the clinic. 3 years back, I was like, chalo kab aayega patient. There were days which were very empty. And I used to call my mom and say, ke, patients nathi aata. Now, when I see this year, I have a waiting list. And old mechanisms and strategies are not working right now. Because that survival and this survival is very different. I had to change the whole structure. I had to change everything. I had to adapt new timings. I'm usually working like 10 hours in a day, and I never wanted to work 10 hours. I always wanted work-life balance, but it wasn't possible. That is when neuroplasticity kicked in, because I wasn't ready to wake up at 7 a.m. and do everything, but now I do. And I was someone who said that इतने सालों से मैं 9 बजे उठ रही हूँ, मैं नहीं उठ सकती 7 बजे. What happened? Disruption happened. Stress came in, which forced me to change. So when we see life, it's very beautiful, and certain things just happen. You don't need to push it. It just happens in your life, and that is how the brain is. It's like a muscle. You have to adapt it. If you don't adapt it, you are going against the nature. That is also neuroplasticity, bad neuroplasticity, where people don't cope up and go into other way of life, where they're not working, or they might be, not doing their jobs, or they're sitting at home. That's also neuroplasticity. So it is in our hands of how we rule our life and what we make out of our life. Yeah. I've written it here. People don't change when it's easy. They change when something breaks, when body says no, when the mind can't pretend anymore. A lot of us go into avoidance. A lot of us are in our own bubble. Dekha jayega, ho jayega. And sometimes it never happens. Why? Because we are the ones who are avoiding ourselves. Sometimes our brain can be the biggest enemy of ours. And we keep on blaming other people, our circumstances, our fate, examiners, or maybe job seekers, या हमको जो job देना है वो भी, our parents, our family, everybody comes in. But it's honestly only on us, nobody else. Yeah. And then when we look at the real life, we talk about heartbreak, we talk about burnout, we talk about identity shift, and then why does change happen here? Again, disruption. Burnout जो मैंने face किया, मुझे ऐसा लग रहा था कि I'll manage everything, but I wasn't able to. And that moment I realized the stress is up. I need to disrupt the pattern. Heartbreak. After every heartbreak, we usually learn something, and we try to navigate our next relationship in a better way, don't we? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yes. So that is when neuroplasticity happens. The brain's way of adapting, the brain's way of changing, the brain's flexibility to adapt the circumstances. Yeah. So today's question is that are we really wanting to change our lives, or are we going to ask ourselves one question, that am I living the life I want? What do you guys think? So what we understood is that neuroplasticity doesn't happen when we are comfortable, when we are at rest, when we are not seeking things. It will only take place when there is disruption in life, when there is eustress in life, and when there are triggers in life. Otherwise, our brain will not grow, our neurons will not grow, and we will not be able to perform. Trauma तो बहुत बाद में आता है. Trauma happens when something bad happens to you and then you're not able to process it. So it's a different game altogether. Yeah. So change is harder, but so are we. So we need to keep our hard work going. We need to keep our ambitions up if we want to be smarter in this competitive world. And if we want our brains to work and neurons to develop. Thank you.